All right, here we are. Welcome to Music at Noon on this 18th day of May 2022, coming live streaming from Sacramento, California. Good to see you here today. A little warmer today. I guess summer is a-comin'. Memorial Day is coming too. And our artist anticipated that by giving us a program today entitled Americana. And of course, that means the music you hear today will be American music. Our artists are Solmaaz Adeli. She's a mezzo-soprano. She's an opera singer. She has had a career in Europe. And you'll understand when you hear her why she had a career in Europe. The golden voice of Solmaaz Adeli. And we have the musical pianist Danielle Naler, who will be accompanist and soloist today. Please welcome our artists.
Thank you. Welcome. I'm Solmaaz Adeli and Danielle Naler on the playing piano for you today. We're very happy to be here presenting our program Americana, as Brad so beautifully and eloquently mentioned, in honor of Memorial Day of true American music. That was American Lullaby by Gladys Rich, a woman composer from the 1920s and 30s. She was one of 11 children from Middle America and went on to study and perform and compose in New England many, many songs. You could look her up, Gladys Rich, and listen to a lot of her beautiful music online. This next piece is My Love, two American ballads. Both ballads are, in fact, transcriptions, arrangements of American song, American traditional song. So, composers anonymous. You may recognize the melodies. The first, the Riddle Song, and second, Shady Grove. The composer who arranged these beautiful songs is Christopher Ho, a dear friend and beautiful composer who's based in Arlington, Virginia. He is a diplomat, a composer, and artist consultant, a man of many talents, and he decided to pick the text, the original text to these two traditional songs and set them to an arrangement of what we think was the original melody. Of course, that is, as it is with traditional songs, they're passed on through oral tradition. So they have various tunes and melodies which are thought to be the original melody. Alas, they were never written down and on staff paper. So these are arrangements of two ballads, The Riddle Song and Shady Grove, by living composer Christopher Ho.
Chicken without a bone. cheeks as red as a blooming rose, eyes of the deepest brown. You are the light of my heart, stay till the sun goes down. Shady Grove, my little love, Shady Grove, I know. Shady Grove, my little love, I'm bound for the Shady Grove.
Good afternoon. Can you all hear me okay? It's my honor and privilege to be with you here today. This is actually my first time in this beautiful sanctuary, and my first time collaborating as well with Solmaaz, and this has been an absolute joy. So when she mentioned to me she'd like to do an Americana program and asked if I would like to contribute a piano solo or two, my first thought had to go to Scott Joplin. And the reason being is when you look at the history of American piano music, Scott Joplin cannot be ignored for so many reasons. Of course, he's the king of ragtime. Scott Joplin was born in the late 1800s in the South and died, I believe, in 1917, and was awarded a posthumous Pulitzer Prize, I believe in the 70s, when there was a revival of his ragtime music. And as you trace the roots of jazz and swing and so many of these important musical, very American musical traditions, ragtime is a turning point in that musical history. Scott Joplin received a very interesting musical education. His parents were musical, but not formally trained, and it was difficult for a person of color in the South at that time to get a quality music education, but he found a way. And a Jewish man named Julius Weiss volunteered to be his piano teacher and trained him in the classical way. And Scott Joplin was also influenced by other more popular musics that were occurring in dance halls and things like that at the time. So what you're hearing today, what I'll be playing for you, is not his Maple Leaf Rag, of which he is by far the most famous, also The Entertainer, all those wonderful ragtime pieces that we hear. This is Bethina, which he called a concert waltz. It was the first piece that he wrote after his wife died, after only 10 weeks of marriage. She died of pneumonia. And we believe that the cover picture of this score is actually a portrait of that wife. And so Bethina is a concert waltz. One of the things you're going to hear are changes of scene and mood. So he really considered himself, he didn't like to be associated with honky-tonk music. This is really more in a classical vein, and yet you're going to hear lots of syncopation and things that will later inspire jazz as we know it later. Another interesting fact is he was featured at the Chicago World's Fair, I believe in 1893. And that was a real turning point musically because people heard his ragtime, fell in love with it, it spread around the world, and the history of music has never been the same because of Scott Joplin. So I'm going to play Bethina, And listen for the transitions for all the different scenes, but it keeps returning to one theme, which you'll hear right toward the beginning of the waltz. So keep listening for that theme, and then we'll kind of go on a story together and hear different little vignettes that he creates in Bethina. So enjoy Bethina, a concert waltz by Scott Joplin.
Thank you. Beautiful. We're going to go back a little bit earlier in the 19th century now to two of America's most beloved traditional songs, Shenandoah and Black is the Color of My True Love's Hair. Today's program features American music, music of living composers, traditional music, underrepresented composers, women composers, black composers, POC. And next we have Shenandoah, which is thought to have been a story about a fur trader on the wide Missouri who fell in love with someone's daughter, a Native American man's daughter, and the controversy is whether Shenandoah was the name of the chief, the father, or whether it was the name, in fact, of the woman he fell in love with. There are various verses and texts to this song. We have chosen 3 specifically, and Black is the Color of My True Love's Hair is a beautiful song from the Appalachian Mountains.
Her face is something truly rare. Oh, my love, and so well she knows. I love the ground whereon she goes. She with the wondrous hand. Black, black, black is the color of my true love's hair. Alone, my life would be so bare. I would never fall asleep. My love is way beyond compare. She with the wondrous hair.
We're going to skip about a century exactly now to Korngold. This we have included in Americana. Korngold, as many of you know, is from Austria, where I also have the pleasure of performing, and I studied, as Brad mentioned earlier. And I said, let's perform something that ties America to its emigres, like Korngold, who luckily left Austria just before the Anschluss and came to Hollywood. He composed a lot of film music here. This specific song cycle is indeed a classical song cycle of 5 songs. We've chosen for today's performance to perform the first, the third, and the fourth song. The first 3 songs are set to original German poetry, so we'll perform those in German, and the last 2 are set to English, in fact, British English in this case, folk songs. The fourth that we will perform is a folk song from England, thought to have evoked feelings and sentiments of wars with Spain. The fifth is set to words by Shakespeare. So today we'll sing the first 2. I'll sing the first 2 in German and then in English. Now, the interesting part about this song cycle is it's not necessarily the traditional song cycle of songs by a composer set to existing lyrics all together, played one after another with no break, and all kind of related to each other in theme and sentiment. These are 5 specific songs that are transcriptions of Korngold's own music coming from 5 different films. So he took kind of highlights of the music from 5 of his films, transcribed those into individual songs, and then set them to specific German and English lyrics, which is very cool about this cycle. I love Korngold, and I'm happy to perform his music for you here today. A very fun tidbit is this was composed in Hollywood, in California here, and then in fact debuted in Vienna.
Ich bring dir die Sonne Es wünscht dir Blicke, so voll Begehren, als sei die Erde neu zu begehren. Es wünscht dir Blicke, voll der Kraft, die aus Winter sich Frühling schafft und täglich leuchtet durch dein Haus. Steht ein Mädchen an dem Fenster, in die Ferne schweift ihr Blick. Lass die Wangen schwer ihr Herze, singt sie von entschwundenem Glück. Mein Lieb kehrt nicht zurück. Der Abend dämmert sacht, ein Stern ersehnt die Nacht. Und im Winde klinget leise eine bange Traummusik. Wie ein Echo tönt die Weise. Mein Lieb kehrt nicht zurück. Now hark, all you gallants, your ears and with tears, with the song of Lord Essex in the fight at Cadiz. How he scuppered them Spaniards and hacked at their spleens for the glory of England and Elizabeth, our queen. They bob in the tide, boys, the cannons they roar, the sea's full of corpses and Spain is no more. They bob in the tide, boys, the fat and the lean, for the glory of England and Elizabeth, our queen.
This next song is dedicated to Karl Böhm. We couldn't perform a concert entitled Americana without performing Leonard Bernstein's music. So Leonard Bernstein composed this song, indeed, a few years before he passed in 1985, I believe, and dedicated to, in fact, it was dedicated to Karl Böhm's 85th birthday. Indeed composed, I believe, in the 60s, excuse me. And this was first performed in New York City by Christa Ludwig and James Levine in honor of Karl Böhm, as he was a longtime music director of the New York Metropolitan Opera. This song, I will be singing phones, so sounds that are meant to illustrate and mimic the sounds of all the different instruments in the orchestra, as this song, Piccolo Serenata, was composed in honor of the orchestral conductor Karl Böhm.
drops on roses and whiskers on kittens, bright copper kettles and warm woolen mittens, brown paper packages tied up with strings. These are a few of my favorite things. Cream-colored ponies and crisp apple strudels, doorbells and sleigh bells and schnitzel with noodles, wild geese that fly with the moon on their wings. These are a few of my favorite things.
Thank you. We thought we'd end the last few pieces with some jazz, American standards, going back to film music, maybe perhaps a sing-along with this last piece, Que Sera, Sera, in a way, maybe in honor of Mother's Day that just passed. I believe many of us have a memory of our mother or somebody's mother singing this song at some point in our lives. This was composed for a Hitchcock movie, film rather, The Man Who Knew Too Much, made popular by Doris Day. Que Sera, Sera was composed in 57, I believe, so around a similar time as the Korngoldlieder, the 5 songs that were then transcribed from earlier films of Korngold. So today's repertoire has encompassed film music and traditional song of living composers, of underrepresented composers, and good old-fashioned American standards and favorites like Fly Me to the Moon, a la Danielle. Thank you so much for coming out today. We'd like to leave a few minutes at the end for a little Q&A. Perhaps you all have some questions that we have answers to. You can find some cards of ours out in the narthex, or when you came in the lobby back here. I'm Solmaaz Adeli and Danielle Naler. We are both currently local to Sacramento, so please, we look forward to connecting with you all and seeing you again at another live concert. Thank you so much to Brad and Westminster for hosting such a beautiful program, Music at Noon. This is Que Sera, Sera. If the Spirit moves you, please sing.
When I was just a little girl, I asked my mother, what will I be? Will I be pretty? Will I be rich? Is what she said to me. Que sera, sera. Whatever will be. The future's not ours to see. Que sera, sera. What will be, will be. When I was just a child in school, I asked my teacher, what should I try? Should I paint pictures? Should I sing songs? This was her wise reply. Que sera, sera. Whatever will be. The future's not ours to see. Que sera, sera. What will be, will be. Now I have children of my own. They ask their mother, what will I be? Will I be pretty? Will I be rich? I tell them tenderly. Que sera, sera. Whatever will be. The future's not ours to see. Que sera, sera. What will be, will be. Que sera, sera.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us. Thank you, Brad. Any questions in the crowd? Don't be shy. Yes. Mhm. Thank you. You're welcome. You're most welcome. And I think it pays tribute to all of the fabulous composers, American composers, and little stories, and it gives the audience a chance to really relate and understand the text and the music, the sentiment, the composition more, for those that may or may not be seasoned musicologists, right? So we are really happy to do that, and we're so glad you appreciated it. Thank you.
I'm going to ask a couple of questions. Solmaaz and Danielle, give us a thumbnail about what you're doing these days, teaching, performing. Just give us a little thumbnail, each of you.
So I'm relatively new to the area. About a year and a half ago, my husband and I moved here. I have my husband and my 4 children in the back there. And my husband is a violinist, Naler, and so we enjoy playing and performing together in chamber music, and I love playing with string players and singers. My background is born and raised in Santa Barbara. I did go to the Music Academy of the West there as a collaborative pianist, and I also got my master's at Indiana University, and kind of specialized, even though I was a solo pianist, I specialized in opera. So over the years, I've played a lot with opera singers and in opera rehearsals. It's one of my favorite things to do. So that's a little bit about me these days. I enjoy also playing for a chorus. I have an eclectic mix of, this is one of the reasons I love collaborating. I get an eclectic mix of music, from opera to string music. I just, this last Sunday, played a whole day of string competition, so I enjoy playing chamber music with my husband and friends, and yes, I also teach a bit.
Thank you, Brad. Thank you, Danielle. Great question. Yes, I'm Solmaaz Adeli. I'm a mezzo-soprano, as Brad mentioned. I founded Voice Academy Soul as well. We host master classes, musical and cultural programs in Vienna, which we'll be taking at the end of June. Please do take a card that I've left out in the foyer in Narthex. You can get a bit more acquainted with projects that I also host with faculty in Austria. I studied in Graz in Austria, and then in Vienna gave my debut at the Chamber Opera in Vienna. Loved performing Baroque music, opera of course, Baroque music, romantic music, and also the music of living composers and new opera. I just debuted last season the title role Elsa in a very, very cool piece in Vienna written by a woman composer from Croatia, Margareta Ferik-Petric. This was a one-act opera with 4 characters on stage, Elsa and her 3 men, so to speak. It was a lot of fun, and I really, really enjoy collaborating with living composers and collaborating also on the chamber music stage and curating concerts like today, like Americana. One other one that we've put together is Made in Vienna, as well as one Latin Lovers. And all 3 of these curated programs span 4 to 5 centuries, even having some Renaissance music, Latin Renaissance music, and really bring to light the music of living composers and underrepresented composers, as well as favorites of the genre. So please check us out online, and please feel free to speak with me afterwards. I look forward to connecting with you, meeting you, and we will see you again at Music at Noon. I'm Solmaaz Adeli, Danielle Naler. We will see you again. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, Solmaaz and Danielle, for your charming program and for making us a little closer to Memorial Day by appreciating what we do made in America, and by appreciating the nostalgic music that this country has created. And you made it very understandable to us where it came from and how it evolved and so forth. Thank you so much. We look forward to some of your other curated programs down the road. So Thanks also for sharing your life with us and helping us to understand what you do nowadays. Thanks so much. Appreciate it. And for next week, we will have Jennifer Reason. I bet you've heard that name before, haven't you? Do you ever listen to Capital Public Radio? Jennifer Reason is the morning host. She will be here playing piano, also accompanying on the piano, accompanying a flutist, Kathy Apple, and her husband, who is a cellist. And I think apparently I think Jennifer Reason also plays flute, because she said she was playing a duet with Kathy Apple. So next week will be very interesting and varied. Hope to see you then. Thanks for coming today. Take care.